Once upon a time, there were two guys who had different views on life. One wanted to live a happy life, no matter what. The other one didn't think about it too much. He wanted an okay life. For him to feel fulfilled would have been just fine. Normal, healthy goals for both of them. The happiness guy pursued his goal by eating whatever and whenever he wanted, partying, shopping, playing computer games, and avoiding at all costs things that made him unhappy. The other one led a more Spartan life, looking to do something he is more or less good at and be useful to others, which sounded more like work than fun. So what happened to them in 10 years? The happiness guy was overweight, struggling with anxiety, and often feeling depressed for prolonged periods of time. He was also just out of an unhappy relationship. The second guy was married with 2 kids, running a small consultancy business and playing piano as a hobby. Not all rainbows and butterflies, but he was content. They had different goals and they indeed ended up in different places. But was it the places they desired? What is happiness and where is it coming from? There are many things like pleasure, joy, enthusiasm, serenity, peace that we simply call happiness. We call happiness what feels good, everything that we enjoy. But it's so illusory, so liquid, so impalpable that if we ask ourselves what is happiness, the honest answer is we don't have a clue. One thing is certain, it feels good. Happiness feels good. So where is it coming from? Apparently it's not coming from anywhere. Happiness is everybody's natural state of being. If we would just be in a sterile environment without sounds, sights, smells, tastes, interactions, and no thoughts would cross our minds, and no feelings would vibrate in our bodies, we would be content, which is a form of happiness, as it feels nice. Happiness is our baseline, but there is life happening to us every day, and we get carried away. By not liking what is happening or by wanting more what is not happening, there is always something. But why the fuss about happiness? Why do we keep it in such a high regard that even in the US Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness is listed with other unalienable rights of life and liberty? The same reason, because it feels good, and we want to feel good, always please. But is happiness actually achievable? Or a more precise question would be, can you be happy through pursuing happiness itself? The answer is no. If you look for happiness, you cannot find it. You bump into happiness paradox, which states that if you strive for happiness by direct means, you end up less happy than if you forget about happiness and focus on other goals. Happiness is a wrong goal to have, because it pops up when you focus on something other than yourself. But if you focus on happiness, by default you focus on yourself. We can only be happy when we don't believe that the purpose of life is happiness. We emphasize happiness because we want to feel good, but it works backwards. Chasing happiness brings us none. So what can we do instead of the pursuit of happiness? The happiness that we seek comes from within ourselves by 2 different ways and differs in the mechanism of work and the duration. There is the pleasure that comes from consumption, like eating, drinking, watching movies, doing drugs and other. Feel good now, avoid all unpleasantness. Then there is the pleasure that comes from creation or being proactive. Going to the gym, tidying up your room, writing a song, having a profound conversation with a killer friend, putting together a presentation, assisting a customer. This one we would rather call joy instead of pleasure, as there is a difference in the pleasure feeling of consumption and the joy feeling of creation. The pleasure is short-lived and leaves us empty, craving for more consumption. Joy, on the other hand, fills us up with peace and satisfaction that can last for days. Pleasure has no entry cost, easy now, difficult later. Joy requires advanced investment, difficult now, easy later. If you take the hedonistic pleasure path, it will lead you to despair. Taking in more and more will in a short while make you obese, addict, anxious, antisocial and depressed. If you take the joy path, you will have to do lots of work regularly, which you'll not always be in the mood to do because creation requires effort. You have to overcome a kind of resistance. But the work against the resistance fills you up with joy. Happiness is a byproduct of an active way of living, like a reward for being creative, productive, useful. And a life well lived goes beyond the mundane life of pleasure. Pleasure is not something very significant. It's like just scratching your skin. It feels pleasant, but just for a little while. If we continue scratching, we will bring blood to our skin and the pleasure turns to pain. So don't focus on happiness and pleasure, rather set a certain goal that if achieved would benefit you, be helpful to others and you also find joy in doing, and just do it, without having the goal in mind. Use this goal as direction, but think very seldom about it. Do something that totally captivates your attention, not for the sake of result, but solely for the trance-like process itself. We felt like this when we were kids, but forgot what it's like to be happy effortlessly, not on purpose. Happiness exists as a process, not as destination. The process with a destination in mind is a struggle, and struggle hides happiness somewhere far in the background. Finally, think of it as happiness is kinda overrated. We want to always be happy, but is it possible? No, especially if you're actively looking for it. Happiness is overrated because it's not possible to be happy all of the time. You can feel accepting, which is kinda nice compared to struggle and resistance, but always happy? Not really. So why keep happiness in high regard if it happens only from time to time? Let's instead cultivate the discipline of doing more of the things that make us grow and less of those that just make us scratch to the blood. And what about those two guys from the beginning? They are fine, both of them, just the way they are. Any life is okay the way it is. You can always work on improving something while still being okay with what is. One more paradox. All good answers come from paradoxes.